So I get to talk about something that I'm super passionate about, which is account-based marketing, and I'm really lucky to have two experts in this field that I've known for a number of years here, and I'm going to ask them a ton of questions for my own personal benefit, but hopefully for your guys too. So first up, I'd like to introduce Craig Rosenberg. Craig is the chief analyst and co-founder of Topo, which is a research and advisory firm that helps sales and marketing organizations adopt new technologies, help them align around process. And I'm really excited to have Craig's perspective on account-based marketing from the sales side of the house. He's also the editor of the popular sales and marketing blog Funnelholic. So Craig, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. And thank you for applauding.
And then we have Sangram Vajre. Sangram Vajre is the co-founder and CMO of Terminus, an account-based marketing platform. Domo is actually a customer of Terminus. I'm a two-time customer, so I love the product.
Thank you.
He's passionate and is a marketing geek. He used to be the CMO at Pardot, which was acquired by Salesforce back in 2013. So really happy to have Sangram here with us too.
Thank you. Thank you.
So account-based marketing, and I've kind of grown up in technology and field marketing, and kind of the old way of doing it, right? You send somebody a Callaway golf cover, and if you take a meeting, then you get the rest of the club, right? And there's been different generations of that with send you earbuds and you get the iPod. But I think for me, account-based marketing and why I think it's so popular right now is because of the technology, and everything's kind of caught up. So Sangram, first question for you, why has it taken so long for technology to catch up? Why is it hot now? And what does technology do for account-based marketing?
Cool. Well, it's hot because you're looking at it.
Yeah.
I think, as you said, Kirsel, I think technology is a big part of the puzzle, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody has been doing account-based marketing for a while if you're in B2B. You think about, years ago when you're reaching out to tons of your customers, you're not trying to sell to one person, you're trying to sell to a whole group of people. So the buying committee in B2B is always more than one person, right? And the second part is that you want to engage people on their terms. And clearly in the last 10 years, 15 years, we have gone beyond email, but still most of the B2B marketing and sales is done over email and phone call. And in spite of the fact that we have Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn and web videos and all those things, people are still selling and marketing in the same way they have been selling for the last 10 years. So the new technology, which is where Terminus really thinks where things are moving is, can we engage people on their terms? And most importantly, can we engage all the people that are part of the decision-making process? That was the missing part of the whole puzzle. People, like when I was head of marketing at Pardot, marketing automation. How many of you guys are familiar with marketing automation? Right, quite a few guys. It's a lead-based marketing platform, and it is doing mostly based on email, which is great because it helps you drive leads and try to take those leads to your sales team. But then what? What do you do next? And that's the missing question. That's why account-based marketing is the answer to those questions.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I'm going to ask you the same question, Craig, but for me, and I was at Marketo, and I love marketing automation. Marketing automation hasn't done us any favors from a sales perspective when you talk about how do you actually get into an account, because you're only ever looking at one person. You're only ever marketing to one person. The analytics that you pull are one person. So trying to do B2B enterprise sales to one person just ultimately fails. So from a sales perspective, how has ABM kind of changed, and why is it so important for a sales organization to adopt? There's account-based everything now, right? It's not just marketing. So what does that see?
That's
what does that mean?
Well, first, can I slightly disagree with you and Sangram?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Everyone always does.
That's right. Because I actually don't believe it's about the technology. I believe that the technology allows us to do account-based at scale like we've never done before. And it's very exciting. But I believe the roots of the account-based movement are strategic, right? That, everyone, if I were a stock trader or a hedge fund guy, in looking back on since the Marketo era, like was 2001, we used the word conversion.
Yeah,
Right, because we
remember
got
that.
Google AdWords. 2005, Marketo gets launched. In 2008, you guys all start to get traction, and it's lead nurturing, and then all the content's about inbound marketing, and you create content, and they come. We've been in a massive revolution for the last 10 or 15 years in marketing, like we've never seen before. I'm not that old, but I can pretty much say we've never seen like a movement like that specifically around marketing. And it was exciting, and it did incredible things for a lot of companies. But the tell here, so the hedge fund thing is, isn't it weird that we're talking about inbound marketing and content and all these things, you get thousands of MQLs, MQL, score yourself, yet we saw an unprecedented number of outbound SDRs being hired and implemented at the same time. That should have, if you were a hedge fund manager, you're like, oh, this thing, it's bullish, and you start to go, whoa, like, wait a minute. If this revolution on the demand gen side is so good, then why the hell are like the best companies in the world hiring 100 people to cold call, right? And you had, if you type in cold calling's dead, you saw 1 million articles, yet people were hiring like crazy and reading predictable revenue and trying to figure out how to do outbound. That should have been our tell that we were missing something. And to me, what we were missing was that marketing could come and say, hey, I got 60,000 MQLs, isn't this great? And sales would go, yeah, but I have this list of accounts that I'm trying to get into, and you only got none.
Yeah.
Right?
0.
You like that? You only got none?
Yep.
That was the
0.
big evidence. It was 15% actually.
Yeah, I like it.
And that's why I think this is so exciting, because this is the alignment we missed. Because remember, when you guys were part of it, when we launched Marketo, I was the blogger writing about demand gen. Sales and marketing alignment, yes, right?
Yeah.
You get Marketo, you start cranking MQLs, you are aligned. That's not true at all, right?
Yeah.
It made it worse because we were going scoreboard, 60,000 MQLs this month, sales like, these are the worst leads I've ever seen in my life, right? And it was a targeting thing. It was about the target. It was about who the accounts are that we need to sell to. So I think it's deeper than just the amount of people in the tech. That's part of it, but I think it was a targeting thing, right? And I've seen a massive move to the enterprise. I think we would all agree that the vast majority of inbound and volume and velocity serves the SMB and the lower mid-market much better than it does the enterprise. If you're gonna go into the enterprise, you're gonna have to go account-based.
You have to do outbound.
You have to. And then number two is you're just seeing real smartness, right? People, not just enterprise, but we're seeing lots of vertical SaaS, we're seeing lots of smart targeting, right? So like if I worked at Terminus, I would sell to B2B tech companies in the mid-market that have Marketo, right? And that kind of smartness, right, that increases our odds on who to sell to, that requires account-based. And then the other thing, is sort of in the similar theme, but I started to hear from companies that were famous, like made a lot of money from the volume and velocity demand gen, start to ask questions about like, how do we feed the enterprise? Or we've capped.
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot of companies that are
we
like,
are tapped out. Yeah.
Well, I lived it at Marketo. I mean, I was hired because I came from enterprise B2B. I was hired at Marketo to build outbound. And it was the most insane struggle of my life. And if anybody knows John Miller, one of the founders at Marketo, there's a constant argument because that database was 100% inbound. You actually couldn't be in the Marketo database, and your email couldn't be in there unless you actually interacted with the company. And you think about that, the CMO at Clorox, and if that's one of your target accounts, is not clicking around ads.
Yep.
So there's no way they're going to get in your database. So to me, that pendulum swing all the way to inbound is where a lot of companies tend to fail and they get stuck. And it has to be a good mix. And eventually your inbound strategies become your outbound strategies and they feed back into being inbound, and then you can go after a different market.
Yeah.
But I do think you're right. I mean, it is the technology, but it's also, we need to learn how to sell differently, right?
Yeah. So we want, for me, account-based, it's account-based everything because it is a coordinated set of touches across marketing, sales development, sales, executives, CS, whoever, against a thoughtful set of target accounts, and those touches are delivered in a personalized, customized way, okay? So that affects everyone. So how do you sell? Well, for a lot of enterprise reps, when we talk about account-based, they're like, where you been? I've been doing this my whole life, and marketing's been, some cases supporting me, in some cases not. The adjustment has been for a BANT-centric salesperson who's like, I only want things that will close in the next month. Because if you think about things in terms of the account versus their current intent or behavior, then there's a different type of selling motion that involves long tail evangelization, being able to manage different messages and collect the different stakeholders and bring them together. It's something our best, a $1 million W-2 sales rep has done this for years. And I tell everyone, when I'm looking at it from a sales perspective, I'm always finding who's the $1 million W-2 rep, and let me find out what they're doing. What do? They never send anything templatized. As a matter of fact, anything they sent, they have spent a lot of time on. I remember sitting with one, and this guy was doing a thank you from a meeting he just had, and it took an hour because he wasn't going to send, hey, thanks a lot, that was great, let me know. It was going to have a fully thought out recap and everything. So everything is personalized and customized. Every touch is thoughtful and was with purpose. And if we can replicate that in the account-based programs, then we're going to be really successful. So anyway, from a sales perspective, it's a welcome for a lot of great enterprise, like your old Marketo reps, the ones who, as you were fighting, trying to get it, those guys today would be like, where were you my whole life, right? But the guys who came up through BANT-centric inside sales, the adjustment is a little different, right? Because you're going, in a BANT-centric sales process, you're going from demo, right? Someone sets up a demo, you're like, yo, is this good? No? Okay, next lead, please, right? Instead of, where are you guys at? How should I talk to you? What are the pains? And sort of cultivate that account. It's an adjustment, to say the least.
Yeah, and I totally agree. And we'll weave into the whole sales and marketing alignment thing, which has been something I've been super passionate about my entire career. And being in field marketing, I kind of sit in that fun gray line of, sales saying they don't have any leads, and marketing saying yes, no, but you do have them. And then analytics becomes pretty core to that, which is why I love being a Domo, because my conversations are very, very different because we have the analytics there. But from a sales and marketing alignment perspective, how do you get marketing to really support a sales organization that's outbound? Because it's not only building a relationship with the person that you're sitting in front of, and from a sales perspective, it's also building a relationship with the brand, right? So everything you do digitally, everything you do from an email perspective, a phone call, you're getting to know a brand. And just like you get to know a salesperson and you build a relationship.
Yeah. Is that for me?
Yeah.
No.
But you, like, in a minute.
I know,
we'll go to
people say I
Sanger.
talk too much. That's why
I don't know who says that, man.
That's why we put you in the middle.
One time I was speaking at an event, and I was about 35 minutes over.
Yeah.
And I was watching you come down, because I gave you some clue that I was done, because I said, okay, and I see you're like, yes, you walk up, I go, next slide, you're like, damn, and you have to sit down again.
You know what was the problem at that time? The minute clock was actually over, and you thought, oh, I have more time. Actually, it was over 10 minutes,
yeah,
not like you have 10
They
minutes.
get it, they love it, they don't want me to stop. 4 hours later, it was all done. No, all right, I'll be quick. Ready? It'll be very practical.
Perfect.
How do I do this? Oh, no, okay. So, just on a side note, we studied 50 account-based programs, in particular ones that have been around for 2 or more years. So we looked at the best, guys have been around for a while. Then we took 6 months to a year and a half and looked for what was the key to success. The key to success was marketing and sales development alignment. They did that first. And that's how they were able to achieve quick results, right? You guys have a great use case. I forget the name of that company in Texas.
WP Engine.
Yes, they focused on they just, instead of walking across the hall to sales and everyone, they just walked over to the SDRs and say, you're doing outbound, right? Yes, you're about to do it to like 200 companies instead of 10,000. Yep, you're not gonna spam anymore, right? You're not gonna, okay, I can help, right? We'll send a direct mail to the exec. We'll run account-based ads 2 weeks before you guys do your outbound. We'll invite everyone digitally to this, right? We'll run web personalization as they come through, and I can improve your target account meeting rate. And the results have been good. Like 30% lift on target account pipeline, target account meeting, in some cases 100%, right? Because it's hard now. And so by doing that is a great way to start alignment fast and to work with sales development first.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like picking the accounts, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we saw it in our own use case at Domo, and I keep teasing Nate Hurst here, who works for me, and he runs account-based marketing. Picking that list, it literally is like climbing Mount Everest, right? Because everyone has an opinion. Sales has an opinion. ADMs or inside sales reps have an opinion.
Big time.
Marketing always has an opinion.
And everybody has an ego.
And everyone has an ego, and it's like, well, I want that account because it's the biggest account, and I know I can sell into that account, but that's not always right. So how do you get agreement, whether it be with inside sales or even with outbound sales reps, how do you get agreement on accounts?
So running an account-based marketing company, like, our job is to be the best in class. And we failed in the early days, quite frankly, failed miserably because marketing actually thought they're smarter. And we helped pick the accounts, and we realized we're not as smart as the salespeople, because salespeople know which accounts they want to go after very well. So this time go around, what we did, and this is literally the 2017 campaign, we are calling it Terminus 500. So, and the people who are picking these accounts are our sales reps. So everybody agreed on the criteria for which accounts to go after. Like, so we want to go after B2B companies, 500 employees and over. We want the so-and-so revenue, based in the United States. Great. So that's the general criteria. Or using marketing automation, preferably Marketo or something like that. That's the general guidelines. That's all what we agreed on as sales and marketing, but we did not pick the accounts. We gave them the list of accounts of like, here are the 10,000 companies we could pick from. Go ahead and pick your accounts. Everybody picked accounts. And now everybody's watching those accounts like a hawk. They want to see what's happening with them. They're seeing what advertising is doing, what direct mail campaigns are doing, and everybody is rallying around this Terminus 500 like this is the best thing ever. And I think we realized that's the hard way, that doing it alone, you'll go fast, right? Picking hundreds of accounts was really, really fast for us as marketing team, but it was a wrong thing to do. By agreeing on the general guidelines of where these accounts are going to come from really made the alignment better, but we let the sales team actually pick the accounts they want to go after and did not overstep that.
That's awesome. I think we've kind of done a little bit of a combination of marketing, like you said, setting the guidelines, but then you guys need to pick the accounts. And then how often do you refresh them? Right? Like I've been in situations where, you look at it every quarter and you're like, okay, you had 25 on your list, half of them weren't engaged, either our messaging's wrong, or we picked the wrong account and they're not people that are actually going to buy from us. How often do you refresh that?
I think for like, it depends on the company too, right? Because there are companies whose sales cycles is like 2 years, right? So you can't really refresh that every single quarter, but if there's no engagement, you got to really look at it. But we made sure that every single salesperson recognizes that there is a cap of number of accounts that they can focus on. So when somebody has 200 accounts, guess what? They're not really focusing on 200 accounts. We all know that, right? So the cap is like 40 accounts or 50 accounts, so we agreed on that. But then every 3 months, they have a choice to essentially refresh that. So because our sales cycles is like less than 90 days, we can make sure that happens. But it's a choice that they have. If they want new accounts from marketing, if they want new accounts to kind of get out of the list of 5, 8, or 10,000 accounts that we agreed to go after, they have to let go of certain accounts. And that is hard, right? How many of people are in sales here? Right? How hard it is to let go an account. Even though you have never heard from those accounts, that is the most important account. I'm like, you haven't had a single touch point with this person or this account for the last year and a half. Why is it hard to let it go? But it's for some of you can probably tell me why it is hard to let it go. But that process actually forces them to go through the process of, oh my goodness, I need to really focus on the 40 accounts that I have, otherwise I'm not going to make my quota.
Yeah, I had a sales VP 10 years ago when I was at Ariba, and what he would do every single quarter at the QBRs, everybody had 25 accounts, and they would have to get up and they would talk about not just the deals that they had, but have they penetrated into those particular accounts. And if they didn't, then they lost it, right? It was just a hard and fast rule. If there's nothing there and you haven't talked to them, you can't get in, you've lost it. and then it was anybody in the room, any other sales rep could actually take that account.
Yeah.
So you had this fun competition thing going, and then that rep would come back next quarter and actually had a deal. It was awesome because it totally created this,
Yeah.
you know, I have to get into my account or I'm
Yeah.
going to lose it.
Yep.
Which is great. Anything to say about that since you're the sales representation? Why is it so hard?
Yeah.
Well, I don't believe you should be turning over accounts that quickly. I believe part of the promise here is you got to dig your heels in that if someone doesn't you either got to trust that you have an account selection methodology that works or you don't. And if you do, then if you have 200 accounts and someone comes in 9 months later, that's what we do at account base, right? It's not a disposable process like the volume and velocity game is, right? Which is like throw it in the gutter. So I believe that, you know, most enterprise class, like you said, it's going to be literally 9 months to 14 months of holding that account. You'll have a 10% swap rate on a quarterly basis based on completely non-recoverable issues at the account. Like if you sell ERP and they bought another ERP, anybody who's ever done that, it's open heart surgery, you are not getting in, right?
Yeah.
And so that's swappable, but I think you should let them keep it because, and this idea too that the account-based world today, the support from marketing, we should take the same view that we do in volume and velocity, which is, well, you didn't get in now, it's okay, let's try, we're gonna run these we're gonna get in. It's not always the sales rep has a responsibility to get in. It's often the best one, but I mean, if we're doing our job and 6 months in, we finally get them to come to a steak dinner, that's worth the wait, and it's a win. And by the way, when they come to the steak dinner, they certainly will know a lot about you because you've been marketing them and calling them for the last 6 months.
Right.
So, for me, I like to keep them. I think actually it's bad for sales reps to throw them out because it's actually a better behavior that they want to keep going, but that doesn't work if it's all on them.
Yeah.
If the SDRs are committed to those accounts and if marketing is committed to those accounts, then you will see wins that happen 9 or 12 months down the line because you are committed to those accounts over the long term. That will, if they are the right accounts, they will bring in the business that you want, and it just might take time.
Yeah. I'll add to something Craig just mentioned about alignment. So at Terminus, we actually have to support that because it's easy to say we want alignment, but it's hard, right? When the goals and the fact that somebody's job depends on meeting their quota every single month, and marketing is actually trying to come up with a campaign, and that takes a month to come up with a campaign. That doesn't work really set. If I'm in the salesperson's shoes, I'm gonna say, fuck that. I wanna go and do my job, right? So I understand that. I empathize with that from a marketing, sales, and as a co-founder perspective. So what we did in marketing is we essentially have 3 people. So we have a 6-people team, but 3 people. So one person is fully aligned, and their bonus depends on SDR. Like if the pipeline number for our SDR team is, let's say, 10 million for 2017, that's the number that person is responsible for. Now, it doesn't matter if it comes from inbound. It doesn't matter if it comes from all outbound. It matters that they are responsible for that, and they understand their bonus depends on it. The other person is fully responsible for win rate and the revenue for the company, right? So he's aligned 100% with the AE team, the account executive who's closing the deals. Run as many account-based marketing campaigns for pipeline velocity, like do direct mail campaigns, do steak dinners, do whatever it takes to kind of get in, figure out why these deals are not closing faster. So his bonus completely depends on the win rate that we have for the accounts that go from pipeline to close. And the third person is fully aligned with customer marketing. If we don't have great stories, how are we going to sell more, and how are we going to find the right, figure out how do we go after this vertical or that? We have to have great stories as we become more of a mature company. So her goal is fully, so that's Kat, her goal is fully aligned with the churn number, that we shouldn't have a lot of churn, so create nurture campaigns for our customers so they understand how to use the product better, but also responsible for upsell and cross-sell. So by aligning all of these people and their bonuses and revenue, marketing team doesn't happen to have meetings of their own. They are in more of their meetings, like sales meetings or customer marketing meetings, than actual marketing meeting. We just have one meeting a month, but they're a week, but they're meeting like 5 times a week with their counterparts because they understand and they empathize with it. And it doesn't take a month to create a campaign. They're fast because they know their bonus depends on it.
No, I love that. I mean, giving marketers skin in the game.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times marketers like being behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And they don't feel like, well, I'm not contributing to revenue. And this is part of why revenue marketing became such a thing.
Yep.
And I've aligned my field marketing team to pipeline creation, right? So having a healthy pipeline, not just getting enough deals to close the quarter,
Yep.
but do you have enough to work on for the next 6 months, for the next 9 months, for the next year? So I love that idea. I'm going to switch, kind of switch topics, but talk about measurement, right? Because we're talking about goals.
Yeah.
But to measure the success of account-based marketing, whether it be on the marketing side or on the sales side, it fundamentally changes you mentioned it, right? The traditional waterfall: inquiry, MQL, SQL, SAL,
Yeah.
close. What are some of the metrics that you need to be looking at when you launch account-based marketing?
I'm allowed to talk?
Yep.
Okay.
For 1 minute.
I'm looking at 56 seconds now.
All right, cool.
So the answer is, in account-based, the idea like sales, their metrics pretty simple,
Right.
Yeah.
right? From a marketing perspective, not so simple. So one is like, when I looked at the companies that have been doing account-based, the ones that have been doing it for 1.5 to 2 years, who have established the cadence, established the relationship with sales, they are hanging their hat on target account pipeline, which I call the TAP, not just pipeline, because that's very important, right? We're putting a stake in the ground on these target accounts. They are putting the big moves they see is in deal size. ACV is like one of the easiest fixes to deal size is account-based, right? Because you can go, instead of hoping deal sizes are good, you go out and get the people that give you the right deal sizes. We saw extraordinary numbers like 3x, 4x, 5x, even 30% lift in ACV can make a huge difference, right? So deal size, and then as you get going, the surprising metrics are deal velocity and close rates because you're putting the right target accounts into the pipeline. You can't tie yourself to that right away because you'll all be fired. So on the key is in the initial stages of the account-based program, I believe you focus on target account pipeline, and the first step towards alignment is what's a target account. Once that is alignment, remember the problem with the volume and velocity is we go, that's a lead.
Yeah.
I know it's a parakeet shop, but they're gonna buy in a month, which you told me is what you wanted. Now we're saying, hey man, I'm gonna get you an AT&T. Yep, okay, cool, I got you an AT&T. Boom, you nailed it, right?
Yep.
And so that's it. And then in the early stages when you do SDR marketing alignment, I've seen where you could benchmark yourself in the program against target account meeting set. So if they're doing 10, if you guys go together, we're seeing incredible lifts, right?
Yep.
You can go to 15,
Huge.
16. And that's a really nice number to get the account-based metrics going, okay? So down funnel metrics, win metrics. The beauty of it from a marketing perspective is you can affect the real metrics, right? We said, hey, you get to go to the big person's table when you got marketing automation. Now you really do, because you get to talk about the metrics the strategic metrics everyone cares about. On the MQLs and this new MQA thing and all those to me are KPIs. They tell you how you're doing. And if you're gonna look at MQLs, that's fine, but they gotta be target accounts, so TA, MQL, whatever you wanna do, because it'll tell you whether you're in the right direction, but I believe the mark here is against target account pipeline.
No, nailed it. Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah, you
not
did.
so from a timing perspective. But
He's
whatever
like 5 seconds off. It's
yeah,
fine.
that's cool.
That's good for him.
So I'll tell you a funny story. How many of you guys are a fan of Game of Thrones? All right, some of you guys. All right. So this is a story about a company who, I shared that, so I apologize if you've heard this before. But this is, the marketing team created this amazing ebook on Game of Thrones. But it was nothing to do with the technology, but it was on the idea of Game of Thrones. Of course, very popular show, a lot of people watching. So they got like about 10,000 leads that month. And the marketing leader went to the sales leader and said, dude, I crushed all of my quota, man, for the year. I'm going to go to Utah and go, on the slopes, right? So really, really excited about it. And the sales leader was like, amazing. Like, no marketing person has ever done this. You are my hero. And 1 week, the entire team worked on those 10,000 leads. Guess what? Everybody can guess. At the end of the week, the sales leader came back to the marketing leader and said, never, ever send me any more leads. Well, he's like, well, why? Well, they're all interested in Game of Thrones. Nobody even knows about our product, right? That is the problem with metrics that don't mean a thing. And when you align with the wrong mission, you're going to get the wrong result. I mean, it's just the obvious case of what's happening today in marketing when the lead-based is at the top. So I agree with Craig on the fact that this is a sitting at the big boy table conversation. You get to be at the C-level conversation only when you actually talk the same language. So you probably hear that nobody in the sales ever hired a lead executive. They always hired an account executive, right? So salespeople understood that from day one. Marketing just behind the 8 ball a little bit. So they finally got there with it. So I'm not bashing marketers. I'm a marketer myself. But I feel like it's time for marketers to recognize the potential they have of driving revenue for the company. We have tremendous potential to drive revenue for the company. But the challenge is if we can't articulate what we're doing and if we are focused on the wrong metrics, it's going to hurt. So some of the metrics that I focus on and I encourage most companies that we talk to focus on are pretty much kind of 3 major metrics. Number 1 is definitely own a pipeline number. As Craig said, if you don't own a target pipeline number, you absolutely don't know where you're going, right? You have to know where you're going. So owning a target pipeline number means a lot. The second part, where most marketers do not dab into a lot, and they should, is really the pipeline velocity. That's where you actually know that you have a great, healthy business, but can I move the deals faster? And marketers have a tremendous opportunity with events like this, where you can have a face-to-face conversation and actually move the deal faster. That's number 2. And the third one, I think most people don't think about this a lot, but the air cover metric. Most companies, most target companies, you can't force anybody to buy, right? Or, from you. Like, you may have a great product, you cannot force somebody to kind of buy it from you. They're going to buy it when they have the budget, when the right timing is. Maybe it's just not going to work for it because they don't have the budget for it. But what you can do is, because you're focusing on only a set number of companies, you are going to be in touch with them with great, valuable stuff, right? So when they are ready to buy, guess who they're going to call? Craig, you and I were chatting about this, and you introduced to an amazing concept this morning, which was there's a difference between a buying cycle and a sales cycle. And I did not understand that concept until Craig explained me this morning. A buying cycle is when you're actually trying to nurture the relationship, and they are just not ready to buy, but you're nurturing because you know they're the right audience. The sales cycle is when they have that light bulb moment that I need this service or this product. They're going to call you and have you do certain things, and you have to move faster. The sales cycle is much shorter, but your buying cycle is going to be much longer than that. And that's a beautiful concept. That's what account-based marketing is about. You have to focus on the buying cycle because your sales cycle is going to get shorter if your buying cycle is the right and focused on the right accounts.
Can I?
Yes.
So, since Sanger won't say, account-based advertising is a good example of the down, because it's hard when guys are up here and we're like, yeah, you gotta get to the revenue table, talk big metrics. It's scary, right? Yep. The MQLs was a protection for us as marketers, right? Because for years everyone's like, what does marketing do? And we explain it, they'd be like, yeah, not clear, right? But then we were able to say, oh yeah, scoreboard, right? Yeah. So it was a protection.
Yeah, number,
you still need
own a number.
It's really hard. So to move there is difficult. But anyway, I think about account-based advertising. So if you buy Sangram's product or one of his competitors, and you're looking at web visit, ad metrics, you're not going to have a business.
You're going to fail.
But if you look at, whether it's cohort analysis, whatever, on when you are running ads against sales cycles, against long-term, you will see lifts in the key metrics. Yep. Right, but you have to be looking at it in that way. So everyone's like, hey, I have account-based advertising, it's got a less tthan 1% click-through rate. I'm like, yeah, but you have to put it into the menu. Yep. And then watch how you hit the key, target account pipeline. And then, as you have great examples of people kicking into account-based advertising the minute we're engaged and driving deal velocity there. right? So if you got 10 stakeholders, right, you have companies that are saying, we're in, let's go, 10 stakeholders, boom, right,
Yep.
let's splash them, and affecting velocity time. So that's a good example, right, where you might think I'm gonna buy an ad product, so I better look at impressions and do all that, but no, actually you can take that and you look at down funnel metrics, you'll be more successful.
Yeah, and to pile onto that too, not every person that's buying the product is going to react to different things.
Yeah.
So this concept of engagement is not just, is someone opening your emails, right? Like maybe the marketing manager, if you're selling into marketing, the marketing manager is going to open the emails. CMO is not going to open the email, right? Is CMO going to react to a package being delivered to their office? Yeah, probably. So I think engagement based on different channel or different medium does become a very interesting metric, and to know when to activate those different things, right? So it's not just the advertising, it's the whole entire ecosystem of marketing and what you do and what that actually results as you're going through the buying cycle, right? Not the sales cycle.
Yeah.
And then it's a bunch of different metrics that end up being able to be measured once you are in the sales cycle, right? Because then it's more sales driven versus, and a little bit supported by marketing versus marketing driven, supported by sales.
I love that. And thanks for kind of sharing, we obviously at Terminus is really advertising, engaging people on their terms, but I am not only excited about advertising in high tech, but I'm actually excited about direct mail. Like, how many of you guys think direct mail is back? Like, I think it's back in a massive way. Like, in your office, I'm not talking about home, like residential. Yes, everybody throws that stuff in trash. But in your office, how many of you guys get a FedEx stuff that actually you don't open, right? Every time I would get something, it doesn't happen that often, so feel free to send me something if you want to. But if it does come in, I'll open up in front of a couple of other people because I want to show off, I got something, right? And then you open that up and you kind of, it's like an activity. It's like getting people around, a water cooler kind of stuff. So I think it's, to Crystal's point, I think when we think about account-based marketing, flipping funnels, it's about challenging the status quo of what we're doing every day and thinking differently. And how do you engage those people and catch them by surprise, right? Not interrupting them in a negative way, but by catching them by surprise, by delighting them, you get their attention. It's at the end of the day, it's so noisy, everybody knows it. How do you get everyone's attention, and how do you have air cover of your message in front of them everywhere they go? That is the fun part of marketing.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So we've got about 15 minutes left. I'm going to ask one last question, and then we'll go to Q&A. So the MarTech stack, right, which is, I think, if anybody's seen the Scott Brinker Chief MarTech map of all the technologies that are out there, we're around 3,700 technologies specifically just for marketing right now. So that landscape gets pretty noisy pretty quick. And as a marketer, as a practitioner who's trying to juggle all this stuff and kind of orchestrate how everything's supposed to fit together, for ABM specifically, what is the marketing tech stack for marketers? And then also to enable sales, because I think this is a big piece of it too, is how do you get all those great programs that you're doing, because you do need the salesperson to react to it, right? And to proactively call into the account. They're just not sitting there waiting for a lead. What are some of the technologies that you're seeing from an enablement standpoint to get sales or that communication to sales so they can actually react? So I'll start with you, Craig.
So you want me to do sales?
Oh, you can do marketing. Do whatever.
Do both.
Huh?
Both. You can do both.
Yeah. You got 15 minutes. You want to do questions? How much time do I have? No. I will say one thing I have noticed on the account-based marketing stack is that I think a lot of marketing organizations have been really thoughtful about buying the tech. Because let's face it, when marketing automation came out, the vast majority of people bought it and figured out their digital demand gen 3 years later.
Totally.
I mean, the numbers are still bad.
They're still doing, a lot of people who use marketing automation are still doing mass marketing. They're not using marketing automation for what's intended.
Oh, I got a hilarious one this morning I got to show you. But they have been really thoughtful, and that's going to make the ABM stack more successful. The other thing to keep in mind on the ABM stack is you could buy Terminus or your competitor like Base if you weren't doing account-based.
Sure.
Right, and so it's great that you're account-based, but it is interesting, right? The stack, it's like direct mail app, right? So PFL has gone from 0 to 22 million in 2 years. And it's hot, but it's like, well, you know, I might use it if
Yeah.
the Expensify, CEO is here, he might use it, and not be account-based. But anyway, I think for me, we are still craving a orchestration app similar to marketing automation.
Yep.
The marketing automation vendors have not got there yet. There are new apps coming onto the market, the ZenIQs, the Engagios, potentially others that will allow us to manage account-based at scale.
Yep.
That's the holy grail here. We need that. And everything else is very specific. Well, and then analytics and tracking is always going to, for everything we do in the enterprise, we got to
Yep.
do that. But then everything is very specific. So account-based advertising, direct mail, right? These things are about, once you identify your program and what you want to go do, now you go buy it, now you're really
Yep.
successful.
Yep.
I'm sure most of your clients that are really successful have that established.
Yeah.
On the sales side, I don't think, the only thing that's important on the stack side there is, well, sales development is absolutely crucial to the success of your account-based program, period. Right? They're where conversion dies, and they're where conversion is accelerated. And every account-based program I've looked at has an effective sales development team. And so, what we've seen is most people talking about the communication applications, whether it's the email, phone, right? We have inside sales here, these things that enable the SDRs to be, effective in their communications and track the effectiveness of those. But the big ones I think that has always been there, it's been a comeback. So number one is contact data is more important than ever before. It was always a thing we said and never did. Because we always said, oh, we need clean data. All the data would come back. Research companies were like, wow, our data's so messy, we got to clean it. And you do it, but then you get another 20,000 leads the next month. It's all right? But if you're account-based, you say, I got 1,000 accounts, you got to know the 10 stakeholders.
Yep.
You got to align marketing, sales development, sales, everyone against it. It's got to be clean, ready to go, because we are about to go do it. So just that old school tech of contact data and clean contact data has just become more acute now, right? Because we can't do that thing anymore where SDRs can download 45 contacts, sales knows exactly who they want to talk to, and marketing's got a marketing database that they bought through, media, et cetera. So that's one. And then sales intelligence, which has been around for a long time, but now that we want to be thoughtful and custom and personalized, we got to ensure that sales has the tools to be able to do this quickly. So I'm not going to say from an account-based perspective there's a ton of innovation. It just put a lot, definitely put a pedal to the metal, like in terms of the importance of those applications on the sales side.
Yep. I think I'll go through, I know we're running out of time, so I'll go through like the 5, if everyone wants to kind of take away, it's like a 5-step process for me to kind of think about. So the first is identify, right? I mean, if you don't know the right accounts, everything you do doesn't really matter. So identify is a really important step, and it can be split into 2, when it's prescriptive and when it's predictive. Prescriptive meaning you know the list of accounts, you know the criteria, so you go to companies like Discover.org, Datanyze, all these companies out there who could give you a list of companies based on your criteria. So that's prescriptive. Predictive is when you have a great database and now you want to find out which one of these companies have the higher propensity to buy. So you go to companies like 6 Sense and Infor and Mintingo and those kind of companies. So that's identify step. The second is the expansion stage, right, which is what I talked about in the first part, which is you want to expand beyond in that account to several people. That's where Terminus and a lot of the other companies are kind of play into that phase. The third is engagement. Now, this is really exciting because every single company should be using a tons of engagement tools. Terminus is part of it. We should think about PFL for direct mail. We should think about video marketing, like how many people love videos, right? So you should think about companies like Vidyard and others who are doing incredible stuff. The fourth step is advocacy. I'm a huge fan of it because I learned a very valuable lesson last year that I didn't think about it before, which was you can create advocates way before they become your customers. I didn't realize that part. So when you focus on a set of companies and you're only focused on delivering tremendous value to them, you're going to turn them into advocates even before they become your customer. And hopefully when they're ready to buy or they move to companies, they will come back to you because they're already your advocate, right? So that's advocacy is a big part of it. And the fifth, and by far the most important, is measurement. And that's where companies like Domo come in place, where you have to know what's working, what's not working, so you can iterate. So identify, expand, engage, advocate, and measurement.
That's a good way to categorize all the different pieces that you need, not only to build an account-based marketing plan, but how to look at technology.
Yep.
So thanks for that. So we've got about 9 minutes left. We're going to open up to Q&A. Get a mic to you.
Thank you. So I've worked with a couple account-based targeted sales teams, and it seems that legitimate MQLs that come in from, inbound leads, if you will, tend to get bastardized. They don't want to be dealt with. It's a waste of time for some of the SDRs. In an ideal situation, how do you set up a team where your account-based targets are actually getting handled the way they should be, and legitimate leads coming in from inbound processes are actually getting handled the way they should be? What's that ideal team look like to you?
Yeah, go ahead. All right, I'll go real quick. And this is, again, I'll take a practical example that we're doing in our companies, because that's exactly true. If you're doing good marketing, you should get inbound. Like, account-based marketing doesn't mean the death of inbound. It just means that you're going to be more focused and you have a plan and you know what you're going to go after. So the Terminus 500 that I talked about, those accounts are what we're focused on, and that's a separate team that's focused on that accounts. There is a separate person who is fully dedicated to all inbound leads. So that way, he's focused on it, and as soon as that turns into an opportunity, he's handing it over to the right AE. So we have kind of separated the team. There's an account-based marketing sales development team and a marketing team that actually supporting that function, and then there's an inbound team that is supporting that function. So both of them are separate. And then when an opportunity is created, all the opportunities are supposed to be treated the same way, of same value. It doesn't matter if it came from ABM process or inbound process. If it's an opportunity at stage X, then it is going to be dealt with from a pipeline velocity perspective the same way, and will have the same weight. It doesn't really matter how it came. The program, the end result, when 6 months, 9 months later, when you look at an aggregate, what happened to my Terminus 500 list, that's when people are going to look at, was that program that we did was successful or not? But it's not going to happen in the first 30 days, so you have to separate the teams.
Yep. So you have account-based sales development reps who do outbound and follow up on inbound from their assigned target accounts. Then you have an inbound team. All they do is crush your MQLs all day like they used to. You can't, I tell people, I love account-based marketing, but boy, you crush that inbound team now, I'll see you in a couple months. I'll give you some recommendations on, where to bartend. But you got to keep that core, and you got to split it. The one trend we've seen, I think is interesting. This is the only reason why I want to add on.
Yep.
Account-based sales development reps have a lot more open SQL definition of what they pass to sales. If it's in the target account and the right person, you're going to set the meeting and get credit for it. What a lot of companies do on the inbound, because they haven't been identified, right, and this avoids noise, is they actually have more stringent qualification on inbound, right? So like one of my clients put it this way, he said, on the account-based side, let them in. On the inbound side, hang up on them. And if they call you right back, let them through, right? Don't do that. But the idea is the same, right? Which is that on the inbound side, because you haven't identified those accounts, you could put, you will want to put more stringent qualification material on what gets past the sales.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
I totally agree. Having two separate teams is definitely a best practice. And what I've seen done at a couple different companies is it actually creates a great career path, right? So you
That's
can
a great
start, you can start off as an inbound sales rep, and you're literally just dialing for dollars. You're answering calls, you're practicing that pitch. And then you do that for 18 months. We did this at Marketo. Do that for 18 months, and then you kind of graduate to the account-based marketing team. And you do that for a couple months, years, whatever. And then you graduate into being an actual outside sales rep. So you start kind of creating this mini training program based on the type of leads and the activity that they have to do. So
Yeah, I love that. And I'll say that I think the hardest job in a company, I think, is of an SDR.
Yeah.
Like calling and getting so many no's and stuff. So it is the hardest job. So I love that you brought up the point of like career development and having different ways to kind of go about it. I think it's extremely important.
Yep.
Any other questions back there?
What I'd like to ask is, once sales and marketing have done their job, you've brought a client in, maybe you have an MSA, MLA signed, or you have a vendor agreement. What's the right way to market to those companies? Or do you do it differently? Once you've got through the gate and they've accepted you as one of their prime vendors, like on the short list, how do you continue to market in that company?
Well, you want to talk about that? That's what you do.
Yeah, so I think that's one of the biggest places that marketers miss, is not having campaign-based programs for existing customers. So, once you become an advocate, you talked about having advocates, how do you treat them? How do you make them superstars and actually get them to start telling your story? So that's one piece of customer marketing. I think the other piece of it is the cross-sell and the upsell piece, especially for enterprise. You could get into the marketing side of the house, but you haven't gotten into the finance side of the house. Whether you sell multiple products or you sell one product, there should always be a strategy to get more money out of your existing customers, because that's way easier than trying to get somebody brand new to become a partner, and all the work and the cost per sale is so high. We all have to do it, and net new logo is definitely a huge metric, but I think there's a lot of gold to be had into our existing customers and making it programmatic, because what most companies end up doing is they leave it up to their sales rep, which is awful. Right? Because sales reps only call into people when they have to sell something. So you don't create that friendship, that partnership, that, hey, we're going to go make you successful, and here's how you become really great on our platform, on our product, and then take that and go deliver it into the rest of your organization. So, for example, at Domo, we're starting to do Domo days, where we're actually bringing our experts on site once they become a customer, and they're doing really cool things, but taking them and highlighting them to the rest of the organization. That's very, very account-based, and you can't do that at scale. But there are other programs and retargeting and digital stuff that you can go do for big accounts to just try and get into a different division.
I believe that the account-based revolution, whatever you want to call it, is about LTV. It's not, and that's really important, because when we think about account-based, we got to think about how we get the first deal, and then we have to have a thoughtful strategy to release or to capture the total account potential. It's about LTV. And the best programs, the most successful programs, are upsell, cross-sell account programs. But you got to think about it. I blame the VCs, right? Well, all you SaaS guys, they're always like net new. If they're in here, it's cool. We can talk about it outside. It's true. But now you see like companies like ServiceNow, these public companies, where the real glory here is how they take 100,000 and turn it into 6 million.
Yep.
And it's about LTV, and there's ways to do it. Like you said, I love what you just said. It's like, that's customized, right?
Yeah.
You're bringing the troops in. You can do it at scale, but you got to think about it. You got to think about onboarding, adoption, expansion, renewal, upsell, cross-sell. And the cool thing is, if the core to account-based marketing is customization and personalization, there is no better customized play than a use case within a company. Mm-hmm. How can you turn down a story about yourself?
Yeah.
Hey, I want to tell you a story about Terminus. Would you like to hear about it?
Of course.
Right. So that's like low-hanging fruit, right? We were looking at the data on companies just starting out. It was cool. 65% started with customers versus net new. So smart, right? Like, let's start there. Let's go drive some early wins.
It's easier. Yeah. So we've got about 30 seconds left. One more question? Okay.
You touched on this, but what are the implications for the sales and marketing organizational structure with this kind of alignment?
So I don't necessarily think sales and marketing org needs to change dramatically to support account-based marketing. I'm lucky I have somebody that's completely dedicated to ABM. So think of a campaign manager or a program manager you'd have, but their entire job is getting that alignment with sales and creating the programs and making them as scalable as possible. So I have one person that's dedicated to that, and they're kind of the person that orchestrates everything and it gets it all out for the sales organization to use. I think the inbound, outbound for a sales organization, so if you're purely inbound, and Domo's kind of going through this right now, how do you go hire talent that can go do outbound and can go mine into big customers? So that's on the sales side. I think that would be the biggest org change.
Yeah, I think it's a mindset that needs to change. It's not the organization. I think if the mindset is aligned, and it really starts with the CEO of the company. If the CEO says, well, marketing, your job is to drive more leads, sale, you need to close those deals, well, you can't do account-based marketing. The CEO has to get bought into the idea that we're going to go after these big companies and we need to essentially have an account-based marketing program, and I need to change the metrics by which I measure success for both my marketing and sales. If that mindset is changed, I think the teams are the right teams.
Yep. Great point. So we're all wrapped up. I want to say a huge thank you to Sangram and to Craig for flying out here from San Francisco and from Atlanta, a little bit further. And we'll be outside if you guys have other questions you want to ask us, but enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.